Just so you know, and when we were backstage, we asked, well, how's the crowd? And they said, it's filling in. I said, this is pretty good. This is a nice crowd. This is a very beautiful crowd. Thank you. How are you?
Fine.
Excellent. Now, I don't know, people may not know this, but you live fairly local.
I do. Ghent.
Ghent.
So.
Now, first of all, is that close enough to him, or should I move that a little bit?
Ghent, Belgium. So it's quite.
Do we want that a little closer? Yeah, if you could just.
Belgium.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so, and you've been there for quite a while.
Since the mid-'80s, and more recently, and still have our place in New York City, or my studio where I photograph my dog is. But I have a great studio up here in Ghent, Columbia County, and very happy there.
You now have just the one dog?
I just have one. Her name is Flo. She's 13, and that's my last dog. So I'm on my last pair of hockey skates and my last dog.
What was it like to make the decision that it would be your last dog?
My wife doesn't drive, and dogs have to go to the vet.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So
it just became out of necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And does a Weimaraner typically live 13, 14?
Let's say. I had the longest lived was a dog named Bobbin, as in Bob and Ray, my hero, Bob and Ray, another Ray dog. He lived to be 16. And he had some lung issue that we found out when he had an abscessed tooth, brought him to the vet to get that taken care of. No, we can't anesthetize him, he's got bad lungs. This is when he was 8. So he lived twice that again. He lived to be 16. So.
Wow. At the height, how many dogs would you have?
It's hard to keep track because they kind of overlap. My dog, Faye Ray, my second Ray dog, had 8 puppies, and I was very close to 4 of them. And then Faye's daughter, Batty, had puppies, and so I kept growing my own. And my sister still is connected with them, and I have other friends that have them. So
it was a number of years ago now, but you had a book out of puppies.
Yes.
And who was the mother of
that? Was Faye's puppies. Ray's puppies. Yeah.
I don't need to tell you this, but they're very cute.
Yes, they are. And they're more cute before they're 8 weeks old, when most people get their puppies, when they're just like 2 days old or a week old. And I had the opportunity to photograph them at that stage. And they really change from being just sort of blobs to being just, at 13 weeks, for instance, impossible. When you photograph them first, they're kind of like they're just sort of all in the basket, and then they wake up and then spill out. But another interesting thing is their eyes are, they don't see for the first few weeks, and they open, and they're a brilliant ultramarine blue, which just is incredible. And it doesn't last; it turns to amber yellow over a period of time. So I had a chance to really watch that.
This is a off-topic, on-topic question. I say off-topic because I wasn't going to ask it for a long time. But in photographing the dogs, like when I photograph my dog, the eye color will change. How do you regulate that?
Well, you're not a good photographer.
Well, no, clearly I'm not. No.
Yes.
You're very perceptive.
Yes, there's when you use photo flash, the light isn't always on, and in the studio, and there's big overhead lights going on. So there's really a lot to, what's more important in my work is what's around the dog rather than the dog sometimes, and that in terms with the set plus lighting and so forth.
So that's what takes the most time, and I would think creativity to figure out what that surrounding is.
Yeah, the dog's just there, perfectly happy, always elevated. Dogs love to be your height, so I raised them up to my height. With a Polaroid camera that I used for so long, it's the size of a refrigerator, and it's not like sneaking them up to it with your little camera. So they're there with this giant thing in front of them, and you surround it with what you're doing.
So let's do a quick chronology here. You decide art is going to be your life at what point?
Probably 3. So I was always Billy the artist, could draw pictures really well. So I went to art school because I wasn't that smart, and I got an A in art. So Harvard was out, but another Boston school, Mass College of Art, was in. So I took that, and also the tuition at Mass Art was $200 a year.
Wow.
And I got a scholarship.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what, probably impossible to answer, but what do you feel you learned from that experience of those early formative classes?
Well, that, art wasn't about drawing pictures realistically and doing that it was a much bigger world. Going to school in Boston was amazing. I was right next to all of these museums, the MFA, the Gardner, museums all over the place, and just really got immersed. I became kind of a monk for art, and took me away from other things, which was good, I think. I grew up in a small town, East Longmeadow, Mass. Loved to play hockey. Almost didn't go to art school because they didn't have a hockey team. Would have been a bad choice for me to make. But I just was sort of a dumb kid, kind of lost. And when I became an artist and a student for art, I really became alive in terms of philosophy, music, all kinds of things.
Was there something that you immediately started to, when you say you became a monk for art, of looking in that there was a style, that there was an artist, that there was something that you gravitated to sort of naturally to say, okay, this is a good starting place for me to understand?
That's really impossible because, we couldn't major at our school for 2 years. So everyone took the same classes, which for me was very good. We had classes in everything, drawing, design, color, watercolor, oil painting, all of those things, and then you decided what to major in. And I always thought I was going to major in teacher education because I needed to get a job. And one of my teachers just broke down laughing. You? And so, you're majoring in painting. So I did, which is a better route for me to take. And I ended up being a beloved student, probably the top student at that school. And so I got a scholarship, an assistantship to go to grad school, University of Illinois. Everyone in the 60s that was male went to grad school, otherwise they'd be drafted and go to Vietnam and get killed. So it was flooded with MFA students, which made it impossible to get jobs afterwards because yet another MFA art student. But there I was really disliked, which taught me as much as being liked, being despised at the University of Illinois, because by then I was not painting anymore. I was doing photo, video, performance, collaborating with composers like John Cage, doing really advanced things, which I thought was far beyond my lowly teachers at the University of Illinois. And they didn't care for that much. But anyway,
I think it's funny.
We all survived.
To use the word despise, that seems like a fairly strong word.
Yes, me and Robert Cumming, another really well-known photographer, were at school then, and if he was alive, he would tell you the same story. We were really not well-liked. There were 3 other students from Mass Art that were well-liked, so they kept going that route. Oh, let's get another Mass Art kid. How about Cummings? How about Wegman? And then that ended.
It ended there.
Yes.
Do you have a sense, as you say, you learned as much from that experience as you did being the star?
Yes.
And does it allow you to be a little more, for want of a better term, experimental, creative, because you don't really care because they already hate you?
Well, I think because you have you have the conviction that you're on the right path and you're not going to get it shaken by an idiot teacher, and you become kind of you kind of collect your friends that way and form your own little posse, I suppose. So, and that helps you when you leave school and you don't have anybody around. How are you going to continue as an artist if you don't have somebody saying, you're really good, keep it up? If you're just someplace where no one knows you, which everyone goes through, and you have to sort of reach somebody through your work, not through your personality or your real self, but through what you make. That's a big transition for an artist.
When you left the MFA program, did you immediately go to New York, or did you wait?
Someone felt sorry for me and gave me a teaching position in a 2-year campus at the University of Wisconsin in Wausau. And he said, in spite of all the recommendations from like the head of the department said, don't hire him, he's a troublemaker. I remember I was at Alfred University applying for a job. In the morning I got it, by the afternoon I didn't. And I heard from somebody, the president of the University of Illinois called and said, don't take him on. Which would have been horrible, because I would have taught industrial design at Alfred University, which I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
But so
probably still don't.
Everything
right?
good happened. Like I ended up getting a teaching job, a 1-year job in LA, and that's where I got my first dog. So if I stayed in Wisconsin, I wouldn't have gotten a dog, and I wouldn't have become a famous artist. Think of it.
So you, I'm sorry I'm stuck on this, but what the hell were you doing where they were calling up saying, don't go anywhere near him?
I'll tell you what I was doing, and you'd be amazed what I was doing. I had a fellowship from the Biological Computer Lab in the Department of Electrical Engineering from Heinz von Forster, the head of engineering, gave me a fellowship to work with his scientists making interactive environments. So I was doing that, and my teacher just flunked me when I showed this project because I wasn't painting. And you got to admit, if you major in painting and you hand in this thing, you're not going to pass. But I thought I was just so lofty and doing something so far above everyone, which is silly because it was pretty dumb anyway. Like interactive things were not. I wasn't really that good at it, but I did it.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you look back at any of that work with any pride now?
Yes, and just having known those scientists and working with them was really mind-blowing and really amazing. I also was very connected to the music school there at Illinois and got to meet John Cage and Salvatore Martirano and Lejar and Hiller, who wrote the first music for computer. Right. So I was really spent all my time in the music school or in engineering and none in the painting department.
Were you, even when you were at, let's say, when you were producing the most amount of the Weimaraner pictures and the books and the calendars and everything else. By the way, it's nice to know they're selling calendars at the beginning of March. That's
yeah.
Have fun with that.
It's a discount.
Yeah, look, 10 months. But it seems to me that at that height, were you still painting? Were you still, or
I wasn't at all.
had you
when
divorced
I was in grad
yourself?
School, I painted. My first year, I did some sort of hard-edge shaped canvases, and they were pretty good, and they looked like kind of like Frank Stellas, I suppose, at that period, and that was my first year. The second year, I didn't at all. I did just what I felt like doing.
Okay, so you're in Los Angeles. You get the first dog.
So then I moved to LA. I got my first dog, named him Man Ray after Man Ray. And he was very attached to me, and I had just started doing video and photo, so learning about this equipment, learning about the new dog, and we just came together in a very miraculous way, I think.
Miraculous way in the sense of you didn't get the dog thinking, I'm going to use this dog in my art.
No, I didn't want to get a dog because my first wife wanted the dog, so I got it for her. And then...
Is that what ended the marriage?
It, you know, when we don't want to get into this now. But
No, I don't.
that's a whole nother story or another school talk.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm interested, so you get the dog, and then as you're working, so from as you just described it, and from my understanding of your early work, that you were working with the equipment and experimenting with the equipment as much as you were with the dog simultaneously.
Yes, I started doing photos first, making photo pieces in Wisconsin right before I moved to LA. When I moved to LA, I got my own equipment rather than getting it from the school, and was making these little scenes and making 8x10 prints. My idea was that I wanted to make work that looked good in a magazine rather than a wall, because I'm not likely to get a gallery, but if I can get published somewhere, that's a way to get an audience. And I think that was really a strong strategy for me, because suddenly I had galleries in Europe that had seen my work from art magazines or whatever, and that got me some attention. Rather than going around to galleries with your little box of slides and being, you know, that's a hard way to do it if you're a young artist.
When did you realize, you said the dog was attached to you, that you could use that attachment, a closeness in what you wanted to explore through the art?
I was very careful not to overuse this dog. I didn't want to become a dog artist. So he was only in maybe 1 out of 10 photographs. And I made sure each one was really good that I sent out. So I was very protective of that image of me photographing my dog. And, but it also, I realized that he found it very important to do something like that, since I didn't hunt or do other kind of, you know, it's a working breed. They like to work.
Right.
Gave him a job, something to do. All my Weimaraners have been that way, where they've really connected to the fact that we're helping Bill do something important. And
I'm sure you're asked this question a lot, but tell me about the dog that got fired. Was there ever a dog that got fired, like just didn't work out?
well, you know, this dog, Candy, who was the most agile of my dogs, would squint whenever I would take her picture. She didn't like the flashes. She'd make an ugly face.
Oh, that member of I have an aunt like that.
But, yeah. But she looked great in motion. So there's a picture that was showed her of her standing on her hands, on her feet. That was her. She was the most agile of my dogs. So flying through the air, doing things like that. So
When you would do, as you said, you were very conscious of not overusing the dog. At what was that schedule like of, as the scenes became more involved and the staging and so forth, at what point, because everything had to be in place before you called the dog, right?
no. The dog really liked the whole process of thinking and arranging and building, and, you know, they're always there. Is that what you're asking me?
No, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
no,
dogs are always there. You know, when we started working with a Polaroid camera, which is this big camera that doesn't exist anymore, but it took instant, quote unquote, pictures, 20 by 24. You would, you know, the camera's the size of a refrigerator. There's lights there. There's a whole studio and assistants. There's people there that are helping with the film, and it has to be a certain temperature. There's a lot going on. That's not just going up to a dog with a camera. There's a lot of setup. And I think the dogs kind of got very interested, or they respected that effort on your part. Like sometimes when people come over and I want to show off how good my dogs are, they won't do it because it's not real. Or you're just trying to impress this person with me, but I'm not going to do it.
Right.
You know, just go, ugh. But if it's real, they sort of go, this is important.
Now, I have so many questions on that. So the idea of when the dog is involved in the process, are they observing, or, I mean, my dog will, wants to help me brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And is just there and wants to be a part of it. Was that something you dealt with? Or did they just sort of do their own thing?
It depends upon the environment. When I first started in LA, I had this rather nice studio, and a certain area was set up for that. But I really didn't understand how to use this equipment. I'm not very good technically, so I'd always be fussing with it. And the dogs would just be standing by. The dog man Ray would be standing by, and as soon as I was ready, he would get, right there. But with the Polaroid camera, where it's big and you bring them up to that level, then they really know they're there to be still and to balance things or to look a certain way or whatever. So, they learn that way. I also have photographed, here's a good story, I photographed Louis Malle's dog, the director.
Really?
For a benefit.
Yeah.
And the dog was terrible, but I put him next to Faye, and Faye taught this dog how to pose. She just goes, "You just sit here, stupid." And then I took the picture. I mean, you can't not be able to take a good picture of Louis Malle's dog. So Faye really came around and helped me with that.
Faye helped.
Yeah, she just went, "You're not leaving until we get this."
Would they inform when you got it, when you had the shot you wanted?
I think they sensed that, yeah. They feel, but I don't reward them with treats, because you don't want to get drool or lurching necessarily.
Are they very drooly dogs naturally?
Yeah, they can be, yeah. So it's always, I like them, I don't like them looking, I like them just being kind of in their own space, kind of serene. I mean, some videos I've had to have them do, special things and look a certain way, but for most of it's just to look kind of serene and in a direction, kind of still. That's what I like.
I'm curious as to, so the progression to the point of the Polaroid came to you at what point? And my understanding is that one or two, how many of those cameras existed?
I think they made 5, and
Okay.
Dr. Land invented them to take actual size portraits. It was just sort of an in-house thing. They wanted to take one-to-one portraits. And so, but it was, executive wives were horrified because it's not very flattering kind of camera, too much detail. And so it sort of didn't work out to take people's pictures that worked at Polaroid for very long. And this man named Elko Wolf, sounds like a Formula One guy, but he invited artists to come and try out the camera. And at first I didn't do it because I only took black and white 8x10, that's all I did. I don't work big or in color. But I kept getting a call, "Bill, you would love this camera, come." So I came to Boston, and it was like amazing. It was.
How much time would you spend with that camera? I mean, were there sessions?
I would go to
was
Boston, and it was a drive from New York, and I would stop in East Long, Massachusetts, and pick up some props, my mother's pocketbook or whatever, and head on to Boston and stay with a friend who I worked with at GBH doing videos in the early 70s, and stay with her and borrow her stuff, and then go to Polaroid for 3 days, and then drive back once a month. So another weird thing that happened doing that is you would forget what you were doing, because it wasn't a daily thing like most artists work, and you come back with a whole new idea. So I really ran through a lot of looks with that camera.
Roughly how many pictures would you take in the 3 days?
I would take probably 30 or 40 a day, and maybe 3 would be good, maybe 1, maybe none, maybe 6. Not many. But I'd use it sort of like so it was, just click, 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 click. But it was really slow. It was slow, and then 2 minutes later you would see it, and then you go again. But you would see the picture, and then you would change the set or change it. So usually the second picture was good, but the third picture was really too late. That's the way it worked.
What was it about a Weimaraner and a pocketbook or purse that would be more appealing than the Polaroid executives' spouses? In the sense of the reasons that it would be too, it was.
Well, the camera isn't
natural.
flattering at all to humans. I mean, it's really horrifying if you cared about what you look like. You know too well what you look like.
So
with this
how is
camera.
that different with a dog?
With a dog, they don't have the same wrinkles or bags under their eyes or meaningless expressions. They also don't criticize you and go, "Oh, I don't look so good, Bill. You should come in a little bit." So they just let you do your work, like the surgeon that you are, and that works well for me. Also, the thing that with Weimaraners is they're gray, and gray goes with anything, so you can keep using the same thing, and they're kind of like, they're called the gray ghost, so they become they hide behind what you're doing, and you can really go with that. Whereas with a Dalmatian, you could do 2 pictures, and you'd have to get another kind of dog, right?
Did you ever for a second think of branching out, of saying, "Oh, okay, I'm going to do another kind of dog"?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Once you had it, you had it.
Yeah. And when Man Ray died, I thought that was the end, and I didn't get another dog for 5 years.
Really?
Yes. And then I got Fay Ray, who was given to me. I gave a talk in Memphis, Tennessee, and this woman who bred Weimaraner, she taught chemistry there, Memphis State, said, "I love your work, and I want to give you a dog, free." And I said, "No, I'm not getting another dog." And she, "Would you like to come and look?" And I did, and I fell in love with Cinnamon Girl, who I named Faye. And then I didn't photograph her for a year. I kept her in my studio, and then she said, "What am I doing here? This is ridiculous." So John Reuter, who ran the Polaroid camera, said, "Bill, come on." So I came, and Flo is my recent dog. Faye was the other dog. Loved it and became finally a dog.
In becoming a dog, that meant what to you? What was the definition of that?
I mean, a Wegman dog.
Yeah.
She became. She got a purpose, since I don't hunt, and these dogs are working dogs. She came to, in a way, with what she's supposed to be doing. My son has a German short-haired pointer, which he got, and this pointer doesn't have a job. She goes crazy. You have to walk her 19 hours a day. She just is, she doesn't have a job,
So
And,
do you say, you got to better start sending out resumes, or?
I'm going to have to take her over and start doing something with her. It's really driving us crazy, because he's in Maine now, where he has to work part of the time, so we're taking care of this crazy dog and exhausting us. And Flo is there going, "What are you doing?"
Did Fay Ray ever meet Fay Ray?
No, but Fay Ray was really happy, I'm told. Someone told her, and she thought it was great. Man Ray, my dealer, Sonoben, knew Man Ray and decided never to tell him. But I heard that there was a relative of his that wanted to kill me, so wasn't so happy. But I never thought Man Ray would become more famous than that Man Ray, my Man Ray. In fact, when that Man Ray died in 1976, I had to tell people that, no, my Man Ray is still alive. And they would say, "Thank God." But, Man Ray was a good artist. He wasn't a great artist. But Man Ray, my dog, was a great dog.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When the dog passed, and you say 5 years and then another year of training the new dog, so in that intervening 6 years, you were doing what artistically?
Who knows? I probably got very mentally ill during those years. Let's see, what was I doing? I photographed a woman that I liked who loved to pose, and I did a lot of really good pictures with her. But the critics were horrible. They say, "Oh, Wegman's got a new dog."
Oh.
You know, it was just not at all nice to this person. But really good pictures. I took a lot of pictures with Polaroid camera of stuff. And if you come to my studio sometime, I'll show you these pictures. But they're not likely to get published, or I'm not likely to get signed books about them. But yeah, I did, and then I also started painting again in 1985, and I was between dogs then. Yeah, no, actually, Man Ray died in 82, and I got Faye in 86. Yeah.
When you were without a dog, it would seem to me, I mean, there's a part of that it's more than just getting another dog. I mean, it's replacing. It's like recasting a show, right?
That was an amazing, I thought, bracket that he had. His 11 years, Man Ray, those pictures. And I didn't want to contaminate it with, dog art, you know. I just didn't want to. But I did, so there.
What do you make of your place in the art world? Because do you feel it is respected in a way that you are comfortable with, or is it often reduced to dog art?
I'm fine with that. You know, I had some problems in the a certain period in the 90s when I did a Honda ad, and I did a couple things like that. I got a lot of flack from some of my galleries in New York, and thought it was contaminating, and then I did, you know, I love being asked to do things. It was sort of fun. Sure, I'll do that. I didn't have like a bad cop in my life like I do now with my present wife. So you know, she says no, but I would say, oh, okay. And I probably did too many things, and some of the work is not so good. So there.
When you think of work that is not so good, what distinguishes it to you? What would you notice that we wouldn't?
The feeling that you want to throw up when you see it.
Oh, that.
Yeah. A sickening feeling, and you're like,
yeah.
Yeah.
How
did that get out?
Right.
Yeah.
And but you didn't realize that perhaps at the time, or you did?
No, it was so exciting because, you know, that ad for Honda got even shown during the Super Bowl.
That's right.
And it was, you know, it was a lot of money. And I said, God, if ever I need money, I'll just do an ad. I never got another ad. That was it. One. But the feeling of, you know, so I got corrupted, and some of my galleries were really offended that I would stoop to that.
I apologize for staying on this for perhaps a beat longer than I should, but I'm curious if you know if it is financially rewarding and you're enjoying it, the dog is enjoying it, and I assume there are other people who want that a type of ad or whatever the case may be, that it must be tempting, but it's the gallery owner that wins out.
No, you know, I never really had to deal with that because I just would switch galleries and go to another gallery. Okay. Didn't mind. But I'll tell you another story. I decided to do a film, a parody of the Hardy Boys called the Hardly Boys, because they're Hardly Boys, they're dogs and girls. I had two dogs, and so I had the idea, and I made the film, which was on Sundance, and it was a really good film. So somebody said, oh, you should show it to Fox. And so I went out to Hollywood to show it to the head of Fox. And he was telling me, oh, you know, Homeward Bound is my favorite animal movie ever. Mine's nothing like that. And I started to show him it, and he goes, hands? And then, get out of here. That was the end of the whole Hollywood move for me. I had like a Hollywood agent, the whole thing back in the 90s, but it never went that way.
You'd like to know what they had about
hands. Just like penises. We can't.
Well, oh, Disney.
Yes.
So when you look at the body of work, we were asking you this before we came out, but you can look at a photo and determine what dog that is and what.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they're all all 10. Let's say I've had 10, even though I've had one more than 10. But let's say 10 because it sounds good.
Yeah.
Everyone has brought something different and special to the work, and also I've progressed in years, so I've changed and they're different. So, as I mentioned, the acrobatic dog Candy. There's one dog that had no sense of humor at all, but Bobbin, the one who lived the longest, had a great serious face. He looked like Macbeth. I did a lot of opera pictures with him. He looked like a hockey player. He was really like a mean-looking, tough dog. And other dogs like Chip, his father, was the sweetest-looking dog. He looked like a little teddy bear. So they all had their little looks.
Your dogs, I mean, they were all, I assume this was never, you don't know, but when you get them, I mean, they all were just handsome, beautiful, beautiful dogs.
Yes.
And you keep them that way. I mean, there's a maintenance, I assume.
Oh, yes. Yes. They get lots of exercise and they're kept trim, and they're models, really. They have to, and athletes. They have to have that way of life.
A shoot now with the dog is more for you or? Well,
everything's for me now, but they still end up online, or right. One of my assistants might put something on Facebook or whatever, so it comes around. But I'm not going to do any more like children's books with them, so they're all just art pictures. So my gallery shows them, and that's what happens.
Are there still things that you are interested, that you would want to explore with the dog? Yeah. I don't really know. In fact, I never usually know. I don't sit home thinking about it until I'm in the studio working, and that's true of all of my work. When I'm right in front of in my studio, in front of what I'm working on, that's when I think it up. And that's what happened working with the dogs. To just bring some stuff to the studio and start playing around, and then eureka or not. That's how that came about. It was very rare, almost never, that I made a little sketch and then the next day executed it. I want to get to the audience questions in just a moment, but you just said something that struck me. So there would be a sketch, there would be something that you would sketch out in advance?
No, that's what I wouldn't do.
Wouldn't do, I'm sorry.
In my early work, maybe I did with Man Ray possibly, but with the Polaroid, it was also surprising and amazing that things were turning out this way. It was incredibly hard to predict. And then you would see it, and then you would go from there. So it's just a question of bringing a lot of stuff. I might imagine, okay, I'm going to do some stuff with this kind of background or whatever.
Does the fact that, I mean, this crowd proves this, but that people love dogs, people love that there's a comfort in your work, there's a beauty to the work, there's such a soul to it that must be rewarding.
It is. Living with them and for so long and being so close to them, feeling them breathe at night. They sleep in bed with us. Yeah. It's incredible and lovely.
I would like to turn over to our audience for any questions you may have for William Wegman. We have one here. We have roving microphones. I think we have one on each side of the auditorium. There we go. Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you. I breed, show, and hunt German short-haired pointers. So I appreciate your comments about
Do you
them.
want one?
Exactly what I'm talking about then, right?
I'm local if you need any help. I just had a question for the Weimaraner National Club. Does not accept the blue as a
Yeah.
breed standard, and I have Weimaraner friends at shows and stuff, but nobody's really given me an answer as to why the blue is not accepted.
I don't think they think they're real Weimaraners. Maybe they're mixed with labs or something. I don't know. But also, Man Ray had brown eyes. So I don't know if my first one was a pure Weimaraner, and he did cost me $35. So I'm wondering, how pure he was. But my others is I met this woman, Virginia Alexander, and she was like the Weimaraner lady of all time. She's the one that set forth and gave me a dog, Faye, who was out of Arco, a dog she got from Germany. And I did go to Germany to look at Weimaraners. I looked at long-haired Weimaraners there, and it was quite interesting.
And I wanted to let you know that I just recently retired from elementary school teaching, and I read your book about Faye to my class, and at the end, when you say that she gave you everything she had, I started to cry in front of my students.
Yeah.
Because it is really true that they do give you everything.
Indeed.
And I
Yes.
thank you for that book.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Excellent. I think we go over to this side. Yes.
What was I going to say? When you, what was I saying? When you, what was I going to say? When I first saw your dogs, that was on Channel 13 on Sesame Street. Which dogs were on that show, and how did you get approved to work with Channel 13 and the Children's Television Workshop?
A woman named Arlene Sherman used to run the department there that got people like Yo-Yo Ma or Mark Morris or whoever to do things, and she said, would you like to try to do a video for Sesame Street? And so I did, and I had my dog Faye and then her offspring. So for 6 or 7 years, we did that, and she would give me, there was a theme, possibly, but possibly not, and I would hand in maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and they would show whatever they felt like. And there was a small budget to do the things. It was really fun. I'd do a lot of them in Maine, where I live in the summer, or wherever. And then Arlene left the show, and in fact later died, and no one ever called me up saying, Bill, we don't need any more. So it was just flatline. It was really sad because I really loved making those.
And especially, one of my favorite lines was with Chuno, and more milk, you still have some.
Yeah,
More
Chundo
milk.
was an amazing dog. That was Faye's #1 son, and he was probably the best actor of the group.
Inspired me when I was a child, so like I said, I've seen your shows when I was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, and like I said, it still touches me to this day.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Those videos were amazing. You did the alphabet book that you did. I mean, that's brilliant.
That's having all of these puppies that were from the same litter. They're used to being together, so I could drag them around like they were wet blankets and put them anywhere. In fact, this Virginia Alexander saw me working outside with them. I was draping Batty over a rock, folding her just as though she was a cloth. She just stayed there, and I didn't know it was amazing until my present dogs, they won't do it. But this group was really flexible and still. I got to do a project for the Nature Conservancy up in the northern Maine, as far as you can go, along the coast. Each dog was 100 yards apart, 5 of them, right along the water, and they didn't move. And I never trained them. They were just, Bill's doing photography, we're supposed to be still now. Even though it was like 200 yards away from them. So I don't know how I did that. But
So, what'd you say?
Miracle.
A
Yeah.
miracle. What did you make of how do you define training? I mean, were the dogs trained? Or
With Man Ray, I went to the Santa Monica parks, trained him every day for a year, for an hour, with a trainer in a big group, like
Yeah.
30 dogs. And then
Those are always fun.
Yes, and I think he failed at his training because he went after another dog at the last second. But anyway, he was brilliant. Fay Ray, I started to do it, and she went. She was like a year when I got her. She goes, I know how to do that, so I didn't have to do that at all. And all of them are great in front of the camera, so I don't need to. Mine are not so well trained now.
Yes.
So what would you say to like any aspiring artists that like want to pursue their art career and kind of have hopes of like selling their art in the future? And then a part two to that question would be like, what would you define an art career to be?
That's an impossible question, isn't it? I think everyone in this room is sort of holding their breath, knowing I won't know what to say, and I really don't. Everyone has to find their own way how to do it and what they're going to do, and if you're not only good but lucky, you'll be able to do something.
Excellent.
Sorry.
There's one.
I think I can make my voice heard.
I think you can too. Go ahead.
Did you choose to work with the Weimaraner when you got your first dog, or was it just a matter of luck that you happened
I got my first dog for my first wife, Gail, and I didn't really want a dog, and I flipped a coin, tails, we would get the dog, tails 5 times, not lying, 5 tails in a row. And I brought him home, didn't know what to do, so I brought him to my studio, and then it just sort of awakened.
Did you just get a random dog, or did you go out?
She wanted a short-haired dog like a Dalmatian, and we saw Weimaraners in the paper in Long Beach, $35, so that seemed doable.
Say that paid off.
Yeah.
Right here, Joe.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. I've owned many dogs, and the one I have now is fascinated by watching television. In fact, she now knows how to turn on the remote herself.
Wow.
So I wonder if your dogs have ever seen themselves in photographs and responded.
They haven't. In fact, they hear my voice when I'm editing over and over again, and they don't pay any attention to it. However, the short-haired pointer does hear the voice on TV and responds, like if a dog barks on TV. But mine seem to know that this is just a chimera, not a real thing. It's a fake. We don't have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's funny. Some dogs, they act like they're completely blind. But
Yeah.
again, I just thought you must have photographs around your studio, and they must see themselves.
They don't see flat, I don't think. Yeah.
The
They did have-
TV. Go ahead.
I was going to say, they did, I had 5 of them. I was giving a talk someplace, and they wanted all the dogs there. I had 4 of them with me, and they ran into this room that was mirrored, and they all smacked into the mirror.
The TV thing is fascinating. Our dog, this is our whateverth dog, but this dog loves watching television and seems to have fairly good taste. Like very like Grinch and Succession.
What is,
It's a yellow lab.
and what is he or she?
It is a he. His name is
He.
Tully. He's 4 years old. We had 2, and then we just lost one. And Tully is. I mean, that's what I love about your work and what it shows of just the expression and the beauty of these dogs. And I mean, I think you really allowed that to be seen as something that we could look at and understand, to see into the dog, as it were. Did you feel that way?
Well, I know that now, I didn't when I was doing it, but I know now that I'm almost overdoing it, that what I did and have it done is really amazing. And when I look back at some of the things that I did in the 90s, the movies, the videos, so that, how did I do that? I just don't realize, but I was just so into it and so off and running that it happened. But now I think it's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming early, Bill. Speaking with art professor Danny Goodwin's students, his photography students, you looked at their work, you were very generous with your comments and helpful criticism, but you told a story about your very athletic dog riding your bike through the streets of Manhattan, of Man Ray, which was an amazing story. Could you share that with the audience here?
Well, the dogs need exercise, so I had 4 of them in the city at one time and had them on the leash, and I would go down a few blocks across town to get to the bike lane. In fact, even before there were bike lanes, I would do that. So very used to being on the bike. If I have to go to the vet, I take them. They're super good that way. And I put at night, if I'm biking them, I put flashing lights on them. And I think it's almost safer than biking alone because you're like a spectacle.
Was there a mishap?
You hit a grate or some kind of pothole?
Oh, well, coming back from when I used to park my car, this was the West Side Highway, which was closed. I used to ride my bike from Houston Street down to Cedar Street, where I lived for a while, and I hit a pothole and flew over the handlebar and was knocked out. And when I came to, my dog Man Ray wasn't there. And I looked down over the bridge, and he was in the garbage eating trash. So I went down and got him. But
Oh, dogs.
maybe tell that story.
Yes, back here. Hi.
Hi. I have a question. Among the photos that you took, is there any photos that you didn't plan for that, but it surprised you?
A photo that surprised him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't planned for that photo?
Well, when the photo comes out with a Polaroid, it's always surprising and sometimes unhappily surprising, but it just gets you back to what you have to do. So that's what happened. And once I get something, I forget it and go on to something else. But it's the striving to get it to work gives you the clue of what you need to do in the first few shots.
Were you in those photos when you would get something and you would say, okay, this is good, and then you would go back? Were you, aside from the children's books where there was a story attached, were you concerned about there being some continuity, or didn't you care about that?
No, not really. I just was aiming to get like one good picture, and one thing would lead to the next. It's very spontaneous, and just that kind of a process.
I want to go back to the audience, but one of the things that always struck me about your work is that I don't like putting my dog in a costume or a hat, because I think they just lose their dignity.
True, they do.
But your dogs seem to be very dignified, and I don't. So how are you able to achieve that?
Well, I know that they.
Or how are they able to achieve it? I guess
they don't know it since they don't see the picture. They don't have an opinion. They're there just to assist, and like some dogs are really good at holding still, and they'll know if something's going to fall or not. They kind of keep their balance that way. So that kind of energy also gives them something to do, and it makes them, I think, happier. Oh, we have a job, and this is it. Also, these Weimaraners, seeing my dress dogs where they're tall, they have pants on and hands and all of that.
Right.
That's, they can fit on a very small base. And then I sort of dress the bases, and there's someone always behind protecting them who adds hands or not. So, you know, from the side, it looks like sort of a hunchback leaning over some wooden legs. It looks ridiculous, but from certain theatrical angles, then the illusion clicks. So that's, for a while, I was doing a lot of that, like that picture I showed you.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Next. Are we over here, yes.
Hey, yes,
Hi.
it's very nice to meet you. I have two quick questions regarding your dogs. First, like, when my instructor told us about, like, the artist talk, he was telling, like, we were really wondering, how do you get your dogs to stay put without using treats? And second, do you reward your dogs at all for their hard work?
Those are good questions. You know, Jay Leno asked me that question when I was on that show, and I said that I use glue and screws, but that's not.
How'd that go over?
They're good at sitting and staying, and I don't give them treats while they're working or even after, because they lurch and drool otherwise, unless I want to lurch and drool. Look, each dog has a different way. Like my dog, who I really loved, who just died this August, Flo's brother, Topper, was so fixated on me. To get a certain look, I would just go hide behind something, and he'd get the greatest look ever. If I threw a ball to him, which would be amazing for Flo or some of the earlier dogs I had, he just let it hit the head. So they're all a little bit different. You know, some were ball, but I don't use treats. Although I did smear cheese on a book in the Hartley Boys, where I had to have it look like the dog was reading a book. That was the only time. That was disgusting. I also got this stuff called, I had to have the dogs walking a certain way. I got fox urine and other scents from the hunting store. But that didn't work at all. But what worked was crumbling up cookies, and they would just follow that perfectly.
Cookies versus fox urine.
Yeah.
I think your question is, I like the way how you worded your question, because it was how you reward them, even if it wasn't treats in the studio. Later on, would there be some sort of, well, we had a hard day, we had a good day at work, now we're going to do...
You know, nothing really consciously that way, like, gee, it's your birthday, Flo. How about a little, you know, it's just another day in their life, and they don't seem to have, like, gee, I can't wait for my birthday this year, or they don't really care about that, or you missed my birthday, Bill, huh?
Is it going too far to say that that you felt in some of the dogs that they were happiest when they were working?
Yes, I'd say so. Or doing something, or being with you. You know, not being with me makes them the least happy. So as long as I'm around, and I seem to be, then that works.
I hope this isn't too sappy, but I feel the same way about it.
Yes, thank you.
Who has a great last question? This is a great last question. Oh, it is on, man. Go.
And the pressure.
What's your name?
My name's Steven.
Steven?
And I was born in the late 80s, and I think that your work was very impactful on my generation, similar to the gentleman on the other side of the auditorium talking about being exposed to your work on Sesame Street. And then, as time went on, I grew up with the internet, and now photography is so accessible on social media. And my question is, do you have social media? Do you follow a lot of pet accounts? And also, my second question is, are you flattered by any homages to your work in other artists or photographers' work? And have you met any of those photographers? And do you have any anecdotal, fond memories?
I had a show in London, and I had to sit next to a dog named Wegman at the dinner, and it was really unpleasant.
That's great. But you certainly have impacted a lot of artists. I mean, you've had an impact.
Well, Okay.
I mean, well, do you feel that way?
Well, I don't really like to see other people's dog art, for instance, or dogs dressed up. You know, if you go in social media, I don't go on myself. I have an assistant that posts things, but I don't have Facebook, so I never see it. You know, if you look me up, you'll see Wegman dogs, you'll see stuff not by me that kind of looks, that might be a Weimaraner or something like that. And it's really quite horrifying.
I bet.
Yeah, so I don't like it at all.
I think most people could tell, though, don't you?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I hope.
I hope so.
Everyone here, certainly.
Yes, this group, absolutely. Stephen, that was an excellent last question. That was very, very good. You did a great job. I'll ask, and that inspired me to ask what will be the final question, which is, what do you make of the state of photography right now, of how you work, with digital photography, the fact that all of us are walking around with a camera in our pocket?
Yes, it must be really hard to be a photographer now because everyone is one.
Right.
And I don't know really what to say about that. I think it certainly is, it's interesting, and I know I'm always on my phone looking at stuff, which is embarrassing and awful, but it's also what I'm doing, so I don't know what to say about that.
Well, it has been an amazing evening. I want to quickly just mention this book, too. This is this book came out, I think, last year. It's called William Wegman, Writing by Artist. And this is a collection of, well, writings, right? But there is art in it as well. How did this come about?
Well, this man who's very smart and has great taste, Andy Lampert, was looking through thousands of my drawings, and he said, we should do a book, and so I said, okay. And so mostly drawings, but also, it's really an interesting book, I think.
Your last question was much better than mine.
Yeah. I think that this is my best work, better than the dog things.
Really?
Yeah, but only really intelligent people will know that.
I think it's amazing. It's incredible. It's William Wegman, Writing by Artist. I hope you will all join me in thanking the incredible William Wegman. Okay.